Alright, well here's my milling machine. It's a Precision Matthews 727M. It is a dovetail column machine, typical setup, geared head with the motor sitting on top there. So we've got to get that motor up and off of there. As you can see, it's mounted with a base plate. And then that actually has a gear on the end of the motor there, or it ties in on a geared shaft that then drives the rest of the gears. But we got to get the motor off of there. Pull the bearings off, replace those. And so for the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start by taking off this back electrical cover. Actually, the very first thing is make sure everything's unplugged. So we'll start there. We'll get that back cover off, get the wires disconnected that we need, because I'm not sure how everything connects in the capacitors, and I really don't want to go inside there. So I'm just going to disconnect what I need out of here. Alright, start getting these back panel screws off here. It's my first time opening this up. I gave everything a thorough cleaning when I first got it, but I did not open this panel. Alright, so now that we've got all of those screws and the four corners out of the way, let's slide this panel off and see what we got. If we can slide it off. We've got a lot of stuff wedged into a very small area here. Wow. That is a lot of wires. So you guys can see that. So just coming out from the motor, I've got 4 wires. So I'll have to disconnect each of those from the terminals, which appear to be all jumped. I'm no electronics expert by any stretch of imagination, but I can unplug something and plug it back in with the best of them. Those seem to be the transformers there. Turn around so if you guys get a shot of that. That's a lot of wires in a very small space. Alright, so I've got the 4 wires that go to the motor unhooked, as well as the ground wire for the motor. So now I'm just going to screw off this nut here if possible, but there's a nut, it's wedged up tight against the other one, so I have to get some pliers. I just got to get that nut off, and actually I may just take this off the other side and slide everything out. Looks like it's going to be the easier play here. Maybe not. It's got all those connectors. Alright, give me a minute to figure this out. Alright, so it is going to be easier just to screw this nut off. I got it loose, rather than try to pull each individual wire through the hole and all that. So that's screwed off. Put it in there for now. Alright, and a good idea is, rather than let the assembly hang by the wires and pull on the switches and everything that's inside the box, just tied a piece of string around it, just to keep it up, keep the weight off of it, and just keep from stressing anything out. It's just kind of like doing a brake caliper on your car. It's best just to always hang so it takes the weight off the line. So now our cable, everything is free. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the head down a little bit more to where I can get to the motor and start undoing the bolts. Alright, now we got to loosen up the 4 bolts that hold the motor down on top of the mill head. Wasn't too bad. I was expecting those to be extremely tight and just snug, which is nice. Makes me feel better about not being stripped out or anything. All right, we've got our 4 bolts out. Let's try to lift this up. Well, it lifted. Right on out of there. All right, now I'm going to take off the 4 bolts that are holding the mounting plate here in place. Before I do that, I'm going to hit it with a silver Sharpie just so I can remember how everything was aligned. Find that it makes it much easier when you get ready to put something back together. Just to put a couple little simple marks, something like that on there. Then you don't have to guess and flip it around and put it on twice or 3 times, you know, to get your orientation right. And I'll do the same thing here when I start taking the actual motor itself apart. I'll mark everything, that way make sure everything goes back lined up. M6 socket headed cap screws. Screwdriver here. I'll do the same thing with the marker. Just give myself an orientation there. Sure, it's no big deal for the cover on top, but either way, it's good practice. Okay, slide that out of the way. There's your fan. I don't know that I would call that much of a fan. Nope. Hold on, let me turn off my heater here. I don't know if you guys can hear this or not. Definitely bad bearings on that. Okay. Grab some. Okay, snap ring. Hopefully this will just pull off. It's actually just a plastic fan, so we'll try to, which it's cracked. That's great. So let's see what we can do. Let me try to work this off off camera. Okay, well I got the fan off, so now I'm going to take the end covers off, and first I'm going to mark this. So again, you don't have to guess when you put it back together. Okay, I think we're just gonna, I've got it to break loose on that end. Tap it all the way around. Okay, that side's moving. Try to get this other side. Yep. There we go. Well, the whole assembly wants to come out, so let's stand it up. There we go. Okay, so we have bearing here, and the other one is still down in the bottom cap. So I will tap this bottom cap off real quick. It's almost off that bearing. I don't know if you guys can see that right in there. It is almost off. There we go. All right, we've got our 3-jaw puller here. Let's see if we can get up on this with the way it's set up. Looks to be about right. Sweet. I'll grab a wrench. It shouldn't take a whole lot of pressure to get this thing off. We'll find out here in a second. Oh yeah. Yep, it's starting to move. Sliding right on off that shaft. I better do it laying down. Definitely don't want it to pop loose. Drop the thing. All right, first one's off. All right, same thing. Just grab the wrench here. Just start turning. Oh, that one went ahead and popped pretty easy. Sweet. Yeah, the shaft on this one's a lot cleaner too, so it's just slid right on off. Boom, 2 bearings off. All right, I'm not gonna put this in the lathe or anything, but I'm just gonna hit this lightly with some sandpaper just to try to clean that up. Got some 320 here. Just, like I said, just enough to polish it and clean it. So now we will grab our new bearings. Which I got a set of new Nachis. The Japanese bearings here. 6204s with the 2 rubber seals. See about getting these back on. I'm just going to use a socket here That one fit the other end. Let's see. Let me get a bigger one. Hold on. Alright, I got a little bit better sized socket. Sure, I'm not missing anything. Yep. Just gotta tap it and drive it straight back down there on there. Alrighty. And we're fully seated. Flip around. Grab our other bearing. Do the same thing. So. Okay, so now that we have both bearings on, everything's nice and spins nice, sounds nice. I'm gonna give everything one final wipe before we put it all back together. Try to keep it clean, try to work clean. Okay, we'll start putting it back together. And when you go to put this, the armature back in, you got to make sure there's a spring, little spring washer down in the bottom. You want to make sure that's in there and seated properly. So everything slid right back down in. Just a little tap. And I already resecured this end with the bolts that came out, since I didn't know earlier what I was looking at. So now we look for our paint marks. There's that one. And there's the one that I made on this end. So we know this will give us our alignment back the way it should be. Alright, before we worry about that, we have to tap this back in. Big socket again. Do the same thing we did earlier. Yep, sliding on that bearing, nice and easy. I think that's fully seated. So, pull this back up. Make sure we've got our alignment. Get a bolt. And just go in sequence so that everything gets tightened up nice and evenly, and that we don't pinch one side or the other as we tighten. Make sure that nothing binds. You can hear that bearing seating in the bottom housing as we tighten these bolts. That's what that pop-in noise is. Get this end cap seated. Make sure everything spins nice and free. I don't detect any lateral play. Everything sounds nice. Okay, now that we have everything fully seated back together, like I said, it spins nice. So now we just need to slide our fan back on. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera, but there is a crack right there in the plastic. And I don't think, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be a major issue. I wish it wasn't there, but I did sand a little bit on the inside just to try to relieve it a little bit, make it slide on a little bit easier, but use what we got. So we line up our flat, and I think that's part of the problem, is that it's got a bigger flat than the fan. Okay. Oh, there we go. It's actually not bad at all. So that slid right on. Get our snap ring pliers. Get those to cooperate. Okay. Spare snap ring. Drop it right in the groove. Tighten the other two real quick. Alright, now we just need to reinstall our mounting plate. This one does need to be lined up back the way I had it marked, so that's where our marks are. Grab our M6 bolts or socket head cap screws. Get one on there just to hold it. Alright, we got everything back together, so let's try to get this motor up and on top of that machine. So, check our alignment of our key there. Try to get this lined up the same. Hope that that key stays in place. I'm gonna lift it up just a little bit just to see. Yep, and the key is in. Now we'll just put our bolts back in, and we're in the short rows. All right, I've got everything wired back up. Everything connected the way it should be. Got my ground connected. I'm just going to give it a test spin real quick before I put the cover back on, just to make sure. So here's the moment of truth. Everything's nice and quiet the way it should be. I had the quill loose there. That was what that rattling was. Nice and smooth. So I think we have success.